I'm Dajuan Johnson. Welcome to the Think Bigger Actors podcast, where I share with you different kinds of talks and coachings and conversations with actors and industry professionals on thinking bigger. I hope these conversations will help you on your path to success, because I believe success is an inside job that starts with your mindset and the thoughts you hold dominant in your mind. Change your thoughts and you change your world. Your path to thinking bigger begins now. Welcome back to the Think Bigger Actors podcast. I'm your host, Dajuan Johnson, and today, I always have a good podcast, but today, you're like, Dajuan, you say that about all of them. No, but today I'm diving deep with lifer actor Spencer Garrett, who's a third generation actor. I mean, it was really great to dive deep with him. And, this guy never stops working. And, I seem to be on a string of actors that are here coming on the show and talking about how long they've been in this career, even with all its ups and downs and what we go through. I guess I just want to make sure that you can have a career as an actor. I guess the question is, but will you be happy with what it looks like if it's not what corporate America views as successful? So I went a little deep there fast. I just went deep. That we don't usually do this until the end when the D12 shot, stuff starts coming up. So let me just run this back. What's up? It's Dajuan. I'm so excited. We got the Think Bigger Actors Retreat coming up August 9th, 10th, and 11th here in Los Angeles. We got a retreat in Los Angeles. Whoa. Look, I haven't told anybody this yet. I'm going rogue on my own podcast. I haven't even announced this publicly, but because you are on the pod and you're listening to the pod and you are my people, right? You're my people on this pod. I'm calling in the big dogs for this Think Bigger retreat on August 9th, 10th, and 11th to help bring knowledge and help my actor tribe get to their next level. You're probably like, Dajuan, who are you going to bring? Who's going to be so cool that's going to come to your retreat? Well, when you get and work with a working actor who actually works and who has calling in people, I'm calling in favors, I'm calling in people that I've known. Let me just tell you, I have Tom Bernardo, who is the showrunner for Bosch Legacy, and he was an executive producer on Bosch, the original series 2 that I was on, is going to be there. We're going to be having a conversation with him. Again, a showrunner will be in the room with us for this retreat. We got Natalie Belstros, who is a casting director, casting exec, like the top level, has casted, has cast on that level. You know what I mean? Who's coming in? Raymond Lee, series lead for Quantum Leap, #1 on the call sheet, y'all, is coming in to do one of our keynotes. Like, do you know what I mean? To have a conversation, answer questions with our actors in there. We got Keena Ferguson, who's an actor and also a television director. Everything we need. Of course, I'm going to be there teaching as well. We're going to be talking about mindset. We're going to be talking about the craft and all that. I'm really, this is a baby of mine, and I wanted to bring this, and I could just see you in the room. So I'm telling you, this event is not to be missed. If you have been wanting to be in the room, the same room with a showrunner, a casting director, a TV director, actors, a community, we're building community and networking, get your questions answered, you better be in this room. www.thinkbiggeractorsretreat.com. thinkbiggeractorsretreat.com. And there isn't a lot of tickets left. And that isn't even a gimmick for me to get you to buy tickets. There isn't a lot of tickets left. I'm just going to tell you that. And you want to be in the VIP part of it. I'm just going to say it. All right, let's get this podcast started. Like I was saying in the beginning here, Spencer Garrett, third generation actor. You might know him from Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, Bosch, of course. I worked with him on there. For All Mankind. I mean, the credits upon credits. Spencer works, but the conversation that really got me going was listening to him when he talks about the evolution of his roles and how he managed to stay relevant in this industry for nearly 40 years, or his perseverance in the acting profession, or the shift from in-person auditions to self-tapes and how the adjustments he had to make to succeed in this new format. Listen, He talks about breaking down a character. I'm like, are you holding anything back here? Spencer really went in, and I'm so grateful to call him a friend. I'm so grateful to bring him to the pod. It's just amazing. It is just amazing. Make sure you stick around for the D12 shot at the end where I bring it all together. Spencer Garrett, how are you?
I'm very well, my brother. I'm so happy to see you. So happy to see you.
The last time I saw you on set, I think you were dying. Where did you?
Yeah, in fact, not only was I dying, I think I found out that night from Michael Connolly on the set of Bosch. He came up to me and he said, I just have to tell you, I hadn't gotten the pages. I think I didn't know I was going to be dying the next day. And I think I wasn't entirely sure that I was getting whacked. Spoiler alert.
It's last season. I mean, it's the
last season. Jay Reason Folks has a very sad end. But Michael is like, I just want to tell you, we loved having you on the show. It's been such a treat. You know, I however many episodes I did. It was great. And he's like, yeah, you're not coming back. You're not coming back. Like you are dead as a doornail.
Yeah.
And then I had a very ignominious end, getting shot like in my bathrobe. In that by that bad guy. That was it. It was done. I was toast. I feel like
am I misremembering? Wasn't there like a tarp on the ground and you were like on a tarp or something because there's blood or maybe something?
Yeah, you came in and found me, right?
Yeah,
and you come in. We shot in this beautiful house in Hancock Park, and I got whacked in my very fancy library den of my home, and I remember laying there for hours in a pool of fake blood Caro syrup for hours while you were standing over there, over me talking about me. And I just remember lying there looking up and thinking, what a glorious, glamorous business this is. Lying there in my bathrobe in a pool of, icky syrup.
Oh gosh,
what a way to go. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I love it. What do your bracelets mean? What are your do you have them?
These are kind of from all over the place. This is from there's a place in Nantucket Island, off Cape Cod, that I love to go, and a couple of these are from there. One is an Evil Eye that I got in Turkey. I did a movie in Turkey with Billy Zane and Gary Busey. That's a whole other podcast. And then this is from I did a movie in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia with Michael Mann. And whenever I'm on location, if I'm lucky enough to go someplace cool and exotic, I like to do little walkabouts, and I find little trinkets and little things to bring home. So I have a lot of these little bracelets. I've got a whole jar of them, and every once in a while I'll swap them out. So, but each one of them has like a little story. This guy is from, I walked up to the top of a Buddhist temple I did a movie in Chiang Mai, Thailand a few years back with Owen Wilson and Pierce Brosnan. And I walked up to the top of this Buddhist temple in Chiang Mai, and I bought this thing for, probably 23 cents. And I've just got little doodads from my life, my gypsy life on the road as an actor.
I love it. I got one from Hawaii, but I was just looking at it, and when I shot in Hawaii, the lava rock, I just really loved it, and I got to so I kind of do that as well. Whenever I get to shoot on location, I like to walk, and it's one of my things for like
me too
for mind and mental. It helps me really in my anxiety, and so I like to just get out and get around the town early morning or before dark and just explore. And this is one of those things I do too. So
we've talked about this, and I know we talked about it on set. We're both journeyman actors, character actors. You never take anything for granted. So whenever you're lucky enough to get a gig that takes you out of town, whether it's Atlanta or Vancouver or Toronto or Malaysia, I just love to get out and explore, and because you never know when you're going to be going back there again. So, and I find little things to bring home with me, and little reminders of my time there, overseas or wherever it is. But and also the walking around thing, that's a big thing with me too, is just walking around and running your lines in your head.
Running your lines.
Walking around Peachtree Street in Atlanta like a crazy person, muttering to yourself your lines, trying to remember your lines.
Mm.
I've been doing that ever since I've been in the business.
I love that. Well, ever since you've been in business, let's not downplay that. You've been in business a very long, long time. It was
87 years. I've been in the business for 87 years.
he's
Um,
joking,
I,
y'all. He's joking.
I,
You
I've been a long time, man. I'd say probably I started really in earnest, like making a living at it at around 25. I mean, I studied in my early 20s, and I think kind of I kind of started really working. So from 25 on, I'm 60 now.
yeah.
I can't believe those words came out of my mouth. So do the math. It's been a long time. 30 odd years, 35 years of doing this. And I'm feeling I'm just getting the hang of it.
What? You feel like you're just, I mean, listen, okay, wait. There's so much I want to unpack there. First of
Yeah.
all, we're happy you're here 35 years because I know you are like me. I've only been in it less 20, and a lot of people aren't here, that
Yeah.
didn't make it. And so we're
Yeah.
really happy to be here for these years. So that's number one.
For sure.
But number two, and I'm sure you probably have seen more, maybe, well, I don't want to push any death off on you, but Meisner, you worked
Yeah.
with Meisner? Like, I
I
mean,
was with, yeah, I studied with Mr. Meisner. He was my first teacher. I studied with him. I met him when I was 21, interviewed with him at the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York. And he was just starting a program where he took actors. He had a home on the island of Bequia in the West Indies, Bequia, never heard of it before. And he took 20 students, 10 boys and 10 girls to this island. Boys and girls sounds a little, all right, but 10 men and 10 women. I was a boy though. I was a kid.
Yeah.
But 10 men and 10 women to this, the island of Bequia. He had a home there. He had a home, kind of a theater in his house, a studio. And we, from 9 a.m. till 9 to 5 every day for 6 weeks, we did repetition exercises and scene work and script breakdown and all of that. So I did that with him for the summer in, I want to say 86. Spent the summer with him, and then when I moved out to Los Angeles in 87, I studied with him off and on for about 7 years at Playhouse West out here. He was my main guy. Sandy was, and he was in his 80s then. He had just turned 80. So he was, he was older, but he still had the magic. I mean, just a masterful teacher, and I learned so many lessons from him that I use now in my teaching when I teach students. All of my takeaways from my time with Sandy.
You teach students? I had no idea.
I've been teaching off and on at a wonderful place called the Ruskin School out here in LA. John Ruskin, who was Sandy Meisner's assistant for many years. He was a student of Sandy's, then he became his assistant, and then he decided to go off on his own and become a teacher. He's been teaching at his own school in Santa Monica here for like the last 25 years or something. They've got a school and a theater that does amazing work. And he asked me to come in and fill in for him one day about 18 years ago. And I had never taught before. And I said, sure, I'll jump in. And I fell in love with it on the spot. I taught a 3-hour class, 10 to 1 Saturday morning class. And I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. Students like me. I like them. I love the give and take. I started out class doing repetition exercises. We all stood around in a circle and repeated, just like I did when I was a kid with Sandy in the early 80s, late, into the 90s. And so, yeah, I've been doing it off and on for about 15 years. I love it.
So Spencer, let me just ask you, and I know everybody has their own process, so I don't want to, I just want to dive into this with you. Do you feel like, I mean, because you've worked, man, do you feel like you use a lot of Meisner right now in your work, say for, what was it? Darn it, what was Laker show you just did?
Winning Time.
Winning Time, or Dope Stick, you know what I mean? Like, would you say, how does that translate to being on set right now? Because you said you did it like 20, 40 years ago. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, I was with Sandy from, like I said, from 87 into the early 90s when I moved out to LA. And I mean, it certainly gave me the core of my foundation as an actor. I'd also studied a little bit with a man in New York named Fred Sadoff, who was very much came out of the Lee Strasberg school. He was an actor studio guy. So I was with him for a little bit. I think every actor, you take the things, the little elements that work for you, and you put them into practice. But for me, it was the essence of Sandy's work, as you know, probably is just it's listening.
Listening.
I mean, just I mean, the best actors, and the ones that I responded to growing up and admiring so much, you see the best actors, you see them listening,
listening and thinking, listening
and thinking, and not just waiting for your next line, not just waiting for your cue. Yeah. So that's really the most essential part of it for me. As far as, I mean, it's interesting. You talk about Chick Hearn and Winning Time. I mean, I played a guy who was substantially older than me. I was covered in prosthetics for 3 hours every morning. I was playing a character. I was playing this real character. It was a really great exercise in character work for me. And I wouldn't say that was probably the one instance out of all the things that I've done where I was playing this announcer, Chick Hearn, real guy. And a lot of what I was doing was calling basketball games. Right. So I had enormous amount of dialogue where I was calling basketball games. So the essential work that I did in terms of the Chick Hearn stuff was just trying to get his voice and his cadence. And I was doing an impersonation of the man and trying to add my own little spin on the ball with him wherever I could. But I was trying to be Chick Hearn as much as I possibly could. And the highest compliment I got was on the very last day. I'd become friends with Chick's granddaughter, and who I've met actually before we shot the pilot. And she showed me family photos and films and things to kind of get me really like that was the beginning of my homework before we shot the pilot, and kind of let me into her family and her world. And she came to set the very last day we shot the last episode, and she came up to me and she gave me a big hug and she said, you were my grandfather. It was like watching my grandfather. So I don't know how much Sandy was in there, but I mean, I had a, I'll show you this guy, this wonderful actor. You can't see him because I've got the screen blurred. His name is Eric Nenninger. He played Chick's sidekick. Okay. And we had a lot of kind of back and forth stuff, and he was terrific. And then before him was Adrian Brody, who's one of the great actors. And so, yeah, it was an extraordinary experience. I've gotten to play a lot of real life people. I know
you played Sean Hannity before as well.
Sean Hannity. I played Bob Woodward. I played Joseph McCarthy, Tom DeLay.
Right, the Republican. You're right. So, is from an actor standpoint, taking out, Fred Sadoff or Sandy. Sorry, you called him Sandy, Mr. Meisner here. I don't know.
I called him Mr. Meisner in class. But my mom is still an actor. My mom was in his class at the Neighborhood Playhouse in 1955. And she continued to study with Sandy up until her 70s. And she called him Mr. Meisner in class, but outside of class, I felt comfortable enough calling him Sandy. But even then, I felt like it took a while before I felt comfortable doing that.
I just didn't want to disrespect it. And that's
I got you. I know. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. But, when you are prepping for these I've played one person who's a real person, I should say.
Oh, yeah.
We're all real people.
Who was that?
And it was a guy named Sean Sasser. And, I just laugh at myself because I remember we worked so hard to get these roles and we're so excited about them. And then we forget them for a second. Like, what was that again? It was very interesting. But I was wondering, you named off a couple of people like that. How do you get into these characters? How do you, because I was very nervous. I was very nervous about, I wanted to do his legacy justice.
Same.
I wanted to really get in there and not make it feel like I just took my own spin on this person's life, but then as an actor, I also didn't want to play a caricature of that person. So I'm wondering maybe how you got in, because I just watched a lot of videos.
Yeah, I mean, with Chick Hearn, I watched a ton of videos.
Yeah.
Obviously I had a wealth of information on YouTube, so I could watch him call basketball games, and I could get his speech rhythms and things like that. That was so much fun. Just doing. I mean, the most fun part of what we get to do sometimes is the homework, is the research and the homework. So playing Chick Hearn, it was just going down a YouTube rabbit hole and watching clips of old games, and I got to the point where I would turn the sound down, and I would sitting like a lunatic in my house, calling basketball games with the sound down. Magic to Kareem, Kareem to Cooper, Cooper to Worthy, doing all that, and I would try to get the intonation and the cadence right. A couple of the guys, for
That was
example.
amazing, by the way, Spencer.
Oh
That's
well,
amazing. Like thinking about it, he's
it's
trying to
still in
breeze
my
through that. That's
it's still
beautiful.
it's still in my DNA. It's still in my bones. I loved playing Chick Hearn. I mean, I loved the man. I loved playing him. The clothes, the process of being in the makeup chair for 3 hours every morning at 4:30, and sometimes falling asleep and then waking up and seeing the face of this other human on my face. And all of a sudden that just puts you right in the pocket. Somebody like Joseph McCarthy, the famous red baiting anti-communist senator, who was a really genuinely bad guy. Somebody like Sean Hannity, not one of my favorite humans. Tom DeLay, another guy, a Republican, a bad guy. You have to go in without any judgment. You can't judge them going in. You can't. How do I phrase this? I mean, I didn't want to do a caricature of Joseph McCarthy. I don't look anything like Joe McCarthy. He was heavy set, bald, and so I just kind of try to make it as much my own as I possibly could. But I also wanted to, in a sense, honor, the speech patterns and all that. I wanted to sound like him. I wanted to sound like Sean Hannity. They certainly made me look like him. So sometimes, I mean, that's the fun part of what we get to do is playing dress up. But Sean Hannity, I mean, he was enough of a cartoon character in my mind already, so I didn't have to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
I played a guy named Walter Reuther, who was the head of the United Auto Workers. Very well respected man. A movie called All the Way, with Bryan Cranston playing LBJ and Anthony Mackie playing Martin Luther King. And I had a lovely scene with Anthony Mackie, who was terrific as MLK. And I just by happenstance found on Twitter, somebody who was following me on Twitter was Walter Reuther's grandson, and we became friends. And we talked over the phone several times. He sent me material about his grandfather, and so I got to hear how he spoke. And you want to do these guys justice,
You
right?
really do.
I mean, you really do. I mean, I had to play Sean Hannity as Sean Hannity, and that didn't really require a lot of. It didn't require a lot of acting. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
I love it. I mean, you've held, like, I think every billing in this industry, right? I mean, what? I mean, you've guessed, you've been on shows for a bit, you've been voiceover, you've been film and television and all that stuff. And I just wonder, like, if you could take yourself back, I think you said 21 or 25 you started, like, is this the career that you envisioned?
I mean, that's a great question. I don't know that I envisioned when I started. I mean, you really want to go back. I mean, I did it in high school. I did theater in high school. I did theater in college. I did a couple of after school specials and things when I was a kid. So it had always been part of my life, but I don't really know that I thought about it as a career until I got into my mid-20s and went, all right, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to see. I'm a third generation actor.
I was going to say, wait,
my grandparents are actors. My mother is an actor. My mother's sister, my aunt, is an actress. She was married to an actor. It's all throughout my family. So I'd seen the up and down roller coaster life that actors have, and grew up around enough actors. Even when my mom was first woman president of SAG, right? So in the 70s, so I was surrounded by actors all the time as a kid growing up, and I'd seen actors at the top of their game, and I'd seen actors who were once at the top of the heap who were struggling. So I knew what I was getting myself into. So when I said, "All right, I'm going to do this," and I called my mom and I called my dad and I said, "Listen, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to study. I'm going to try this and see if I'm any good at it, and see if this has any legs." And I think I gave myself a really kind of an unrealistic goal, because let's say I started out around 23, 24, and I remember thinking, man, if I haven't reached level X by the time I'm 30, then I'll bail out and I'll go find something else to do. Well, that I essentially given myself 6 years to get successful.
Yeah.
And you can't measure that metric, because it's such an uncertain business. I moved out to LA from New York.
And what's success though? And what's
what
success?
Is success? What is
like
success?
What part of that mean? Did you book like two times, listen, one time? What is it? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, I am I like you. I feel enormously blessed to do, like you said, voiceover, half-hour movies, independent films, big films, guest spots. Anytime we get a chance to be on a set and ply our craft, that's success to me. And then getting a chance to do it again and again after that, if you're lucky enough and you've reached a certain kind of status in the industry where they go, yeah, get me Spencer Garrett. He'll be great for that. That to me is success. But you're always grinding, you're always hustling.
Well, Spencer, are you? Because Spencer, like I maybe I just think of you so amazingly. Like you're Spencer Garrett. Like, you know what I mean? And like you work. Like you work. I mean, we can turn on stuff all the way back from the 80s, till now that you are on. So
I do, but I also feel like, I don't know, maybe Dajuan, maybe it's because I came from a family of actors and I saw this kind of up and down roller coaster ride. So for me, I mean, I'm finishing a job on May 1st. I'm lucky enough to have gone from the Lakers show on HBO, jumped right into a Shonda Rhimes Netflix miniseries that we started last April before the strike. We shot 4 episodes and then the strike hit and we just started back up again. But I don't know what's coming up after that. I don't have anything. I don't have anything in the hopper after that. So, you never know what's around the corner. So,
well, hold on. I want to ask a question about that, because that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You don't know what's in the hopper, Spencer, but can I peel that back a layer and ask, but are you confident in knowing something will come?
Well, a long pregnant pause. I'm trying to think of, am I confident in knowing that something will come? Yeah, I guess I have to be. I mean, there are a couple of things that are being dangled right now that are around the corner that I'm kind of looking at. But I don't think you're ever, if you get to a place where you feel certain, I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's, I'm trying to articulate this the right way. I don't want to get cocky about, there's always something around the corner. Because you're only as good as your last job. Mm-hmm. So, so if something comes right on the heels of this one, terrific. But it might be, I mean, I've gone at times, I've gone 8 months to a year without a job. So I've seemed to have fallen into a nice little pocket in the last several years that, of really, really good work. I feel lucky. I mean, I feel lucky every time I get out of bed and get to roll up onto a set. I do not take a single thing for granted. I think that's what I was trying to say. I wasn't answering your question right. I feel like I don't want to take it for granted that there's something around the corner.
Yeah.
Because you're always working for it.
I guess I'm not. I don't want to press you up against the wall with that question.
No.
I guess
it's a great question. I'm trying to figure it out myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, how to approach this next stage of my life as I'm into my 60th year now, and what that means for me. As I've always been, I think, considered a character actor. I was never the ingenue boy or the young leading man. I've always played characters. I've never been thought of as like, the hunky, handsome, leading man type. I've always played the characters. And to me, those are the guys that have the longevity. Those are the guys those actors that I grew up admiring, the Gene Hackmans, and even the, William Hurt, and Pacino, and all the usual suspects that we all talk about. But to me, the character guys, the Robert Duvalls and the Dustin Hoffmans, those were the guys that had those kind of long careers, that played different kinds of characters and things, that weren't kind of typed into this box of, oh, he's just a leading man. I mean, Robert Redford was a fantastic movie star and a really good actor, but he kind of played the same guy throughout his career. The best example for me, Paul Newman. Paul Newman was a wonderful actor who became a movie star, and he became a better and better actor as he got older.
Yeah.
And I like to think that, obviously he was a leading man, but as he got older, going into like The Verdict and things like that, as he aged, he ripened with age, and he got richer and deeper, and his work got deeper. And I'd like to think that I'm heading in that kind of territory.
Yeah.
So when I said earlier at the beginning of this, I think I'm just getting the hang of it, I mean that. I feel like I'm still kind of figuring out how to do it. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to grow as an actor. I learn from my students. Sometimes you get lazy, and you fall into this trap of sameness, kind of making kind of the same choices. And I've caught myself doing those things, and I'm always kind of trying to challenge myself to not kind of fall into that trap of doing the same thing. So
I just wondered, because you said it, and I think my mind went to, is this just what we're signing up for? Like that we're just not going to be sure about the rest of our lives. Like, if we stay as an actor, like you said, the ebbs and the flows, or is that just a consciousness of actors past that we are bringing to this moment? Because if you are working 1 or 2 or 3 big jobs a year, then we're working. You know what I mean? And if you and I know, if you get one big job a year, one big one, let's just say a nice one, that can still float you for that year or even next year or so forth. And so I'm just thinking the mindset of actors that have asked, is this just what we're signing up for? I think it is. Or am I just trying to say, I haven't worked a ton since before the strike. I did NCIS Hawaii. It was, some things were supposed to come back during the strike. They didn't. But I still know, there's a knowing, because I'm still in the game, that I will book again. I will work again.
Okay, that's great. All right, so you helped me answer your question too.
Good. What is it?
I do. No, I do. Yes, I do know that I will book again. I do have the confidence to know that I will book again. In this new world of self-tapes, I used to love auditioning. I loved going in the room. I loved showing them what I could do in the room. Bryan Cranston has a great quote about auditioning. You're not going there to get the job. You're going in that room to show them what you can do. This is what I have. These are the tools that I have. If you want to bring this particular set of tools to the party, great. If not, you're gonna cast Joe. Bryan, to me, is like he's become a friend over the last several years. He is like he's the gold standard journeyman character actor guy who literally, you look at that body of work from the commercials, and then he's been at it for a long, long time. And he got into, with Malcolm in the Middle in his, I want to say, early 50s, and then Malcolm in the Middle turned into Breaking Bad. This is a guy who was at it already for 30 years as a grinder, as a journeyman character guy, before he had quote unquote success. So, you never fucking know. You never know. But do I think I'm going to book something after this gig? Yes.
We're not saying tomorrow. We're just saying,
Not saying tomorrow. But yeah,
it
I know
can.
that I have the skills. I know that I have the skills. I feel confident in my abilities that I will that I will have something else after this, and that I will continue to work as an actor for hopefully the next 10, 15 years, 20 years. But going back to auditions, I do miss that interpersonal connection of being in the room with casting and the decision makers. This self tape thing is a whole new vibe, and it's interesting trying to navigate this the last couple of years. The last in-person audition I had was actually for Francine Maisler for Winning Time, and that was 4 years ago. And
Yeah,
it's
me
been all
too.
self-tape stuff since then. And it's strange because you feel like you're acting in a vacuum. I've got the same person who's been doing my self-tapes for the last several years is a terrific actor named Bruce Nozick, and he opened up a little self-tape business. And I go to his house and we sit there and we work. He coaches me and we work through the stuff and we do a couple of takes until we feel like it's right. But it's different because I'm a visceral person. Like and it's also the ham in me and the stage actor in me that likes to be performing in front of other bodies and feeling that energy in the room. So the self tape thing is different. So I'm learning how to navigate that new
World.
terrain. It's
Do you feel like with the self tape? Sorry, Spencer, I mean to cut you off. I was just thinking, do you feel like because you've had such a body of work beforehand that meeting these casting directors or these people that you're auditioning for now in self tape world, they kind of know like Spencer's going to give us a good performance or Spencer's going to give us a read? Do you think that helps push?
I hope so.
Okay.
I like to hope so. I like to think that casting people know what they're going to get when they ask me to read for their projects.
Yeah.
That I'm going to give them a quality audition. That being said, it's interesting. And my self tapes are great. I mean, we could go down this self tape rabbit hole. But I mean, I was 0 for 30 in self tape auditions since self taping started, since that became a thing. 0 for 30. And I started to get to a place where I was like, holy shit, this is a new world for me. Like I'm used to going in the room and getting a phone call the next day, and booking the self-tape stuff. And when I wasn't booking off the self-tapes, I started to worry. And I don't know whether the odds are greater, there's more competition for less product or whatever it is, but it was the 31st one that it was a yes, that it was a booking. And I thought, okay, I can put myself at ease. But then you start, because we're insecure beings. And I started thinking, well, what am I doing wrong? What am I not bringing to the table with my self tapes? And I had to kind of calm myself down and go, it's okay. You're doing the same thing you do in the room. Don't overthink it. I was doing like recording 10 takes of a self tape. Yeah. And I thought, okay, now you don't have to do that. Just do 2, pick one and move on. Get in your car and drive.
I know that technical piece, but what shifted for you? Did you shift any acting? I mean, for that 31st time, or were you really it sounds like you had a mindset shift of like, okay, I'm getting in my head about all of this, about all the stuff. And then you're like, I calmed down and there was a booking, or did you bring some acting?
I just decided to throw it away more. And I just kind of throwing the performance away more and lowering the expectations, because there's a certain part of you, I think, that feels like whoever is watching this self-tape wants to see what the performance is going to be on the day. Mm-hmm. I still think that's true. I still think that they are looking for that the producers or whoever is making the decision, the bean counters, whoever is looking at those self-tapes is looking at that and going, well, I want to see what that performance is going to be on the day. Maybe that's true, maybe not. But I was overthinking it. I was trying to give them the performance that they wanted to see on day one of filming. And then I had to disabuse myself of that and just go, you know what, just relax, breathe, read the lines, make good choices, and hopefully it'll fall your way. Because if you start overthinking it and you start worrying about what you're doing, I've been doing this for almost 40 years.
Yeah.
I'm obviously doing something right. So
just a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to say that like that was the revelation I had too, Spencer, in this self-tape world. And I would say it happened in about 2020, 2021 when we first went in, was that I was coming off of Bosch. We were just finishing our 7th season. And, the thought I had was, oh, I know what they want. I've been on set for like I'm hot. I get it. They want me to walk here, do this, turn here, look here. I know where the cameras are.
Can I say, I don't want to embarrass you. You were great. You're great on Bosch. And listen, and for a lot of actors, I mean, you recurred on that show for what, 7 seasons?
Yeah, all 7.
For a lot of actors, I mean, that's for a lot of people, that's the dream. Yeah. To get a gig where you're recurring, and then your price gets bumped up over time, but you're part of a family. You become part of that family. For a lot of people, that can be enough, and it's great. We are so lucky to get to do what we do. But the way that you plugged yourself into that world and you were part of that world with Titus and everybody who kind of set the tone. I so enjoyed watching your work on that show. I really did. It was great. It was just so clean and simple, and it beautifully fit the tone of the show. And
that means a lot coming from you.
No, it was a pleasure to watch. And then finally getting to work together. Was fantastic. And then also getting to do the quarantine thing.
Yes.
Which, and I have to tell you, side note, I met, you and I know each other and we've met each other in person, but all of those other people, and you can explain to your listeners what quarantine was, our little internet show that we did. But I met Joanna Sotomura in person at a screening the other night for the first time. I've never met any of the other people that we did that show with. We recorded 25 episodes over 5 or 6 months, and I'd never met anybody in real life other than over Zoom.
It's very interesting that's such a blip on our radar. We're in such a different things. But I was just thinking like about the self-tapes. I was just saying that like when I came off Bosch, I thought I knew what was needed on set, and I did. But it's different when we were auditioning, like you're saying. And I wasn't showing them my take. I was just showing them, oh, I know what they want, instead of like, this is what I offered this character. This is what I'm going to show you. And like you said, with Brian, if they're buying vanilla or chocolate today, great. If not, all right, I'll see you later. Go hire Spencer. He's great. You know what I mean? And that's the
and find that quote of Brian. You can find it on the internet. It's great. Yeah. He basically said, I figured out after being an actor for many, many years what I was doing wrong. I was going into the room trying to get the job. And I realized that it's completely out of your control. Sometimes they know whether you're the guy the moment you walk in the door or the moment you sit down and pick the sides up. They know we want somebody taller, we want somebody shorter, we want somebody bolder, we want somebody whatever. And that's one of the single greatest pieces of advice that I've ever heard. I just happen to have seen it. I've known Brian for years. I've worked with him. Now at this point, he's a dear friend, and watching the way he has navigated the success of his career in the last 10 years with such grace, and he's always giving back to younger actors and all of that. And but I mean, don't try to get the job. Just say, this is me. This is what I can do. And as Steve Martin famously said, be so good that they won't forget you.
They won't forget you. I have a confession to make to you.
Go.
That really good, sort of. I mean, Titus, of course.
Yeah.
I was always, when I started Bosch, a little, not want to say envious of how this wonderful man has cultivated all of these beautiful relationships that people want to come play. They're like people he's worked with on stage, and all these people like that just. And I remember thinking on like season 1, somewhere in the beginning season, it's like, gosh, I would love to do that. And you like coming in, like you like no, you're like your friends are like it was so amazing that I just want to say like seeing your Instagrams and all those things. I'm like, I just want all that. And here we are 15 years later. Like I have that. Like, do you know? And I didn't know that you just need to be in the industry long enough and, really be a nice person and cultivate your friendships in a real way.
That's the thing. No, but you nailed it. It's a business of relationships and a business of friendships. And it's a business first and foremost, but for a cat like Titus, who is also a journeyman character actor, who, I mean, we both started around the same time. He had a nice little body of work in New York in the theater before he came out here. He was at NYU. He was already known. But when I met Titus 30 years ago, I met Titus the week before my 30th birthday. So a little over maybe 31, 32 years ago, we met. Instantly became pals. And he was going from gig to gig and sometimes not working. And, he's obviously kind of an unusual looking guy. He's very much a type. He has this sort of tough guy persona. So he was sort of like limited by the kinds of roles that he was getting. And then, man, he got into his late 40s, early 50s, and he went on a run like I'd never seen before. All of a sudden, this long body of work that he built up over time, because you show up on time, you do your job, you're not an asshole, you do good work, you go home and somebody else calls you and says, get me Titus Welliver, or get me Spencer Garrett, or get me Dajuan Johnson, because you did your job and you are liked and you are respected. And that's what Titus just built up this great body of work. And then I think by the time he went in to read for Michael in Bosch, it was like they knew he was the guy. Like he just brought all of these years of gravitas and heft, and he'd read all the books, he'd done his work. Titus was ready for that role. Like when he went in and read for Hieronymus Bosch, he was ready to be cast as that guy. Like it was the universe just coming together and saying, here you go, we're ready for you. You are ready to have this role. And it was such a great gift to him. And he's taken it, and a lesser actor, and I've said this to him, I mean, a lesser actor would have taken that role and could have been an asshole and run the show into the ground. But he was I watched him lead by example when I was on the show as number one on the call sheet, because he was ready to be number one on the call sheet.
That's something big that you're saying, by the way. That's something big.
Oh, yeah.
Ready to be number one. It's totally different.
To go from a guy who's been like number 14, number 23, number 9 for most of my career, to get put in that position and handed this gift of, all right, you're the guy now. You set the tone. That was huge. And he's lived up to it. And a lot of people don't live up to it. So the reason you have that longevity is because you're living up to that example that you set after years of, you just keep raising the bar and keep doing good work. But I remember he was doing like Lost and Sons of Anarchy and Deadwood, and I mean all of these Leverage and Good Wife, all of these wonderful characters, and it was all happening like within the span of about 2 or 3 years. Just all of a sudden, he was never not working, and I thought, man, this guy is on a runaway train, and he's just crushing it, and that's just years of experience and doing great work, and the universe saying, here you go.
Here you go. Here you go for that.
There you go. Yeah.
I wonder, like, as you talk about how long you've been in this industry, this is just a random question. I just was thinking, agents, managers, like, have you, I mean, because, I got listeners all over in their career, like different.
Yeah.
Have you been through a lot of them? Have you stuck with like how does that world? I've been through like so many, it feels like, and my last agency, we've talked about it on the podcast, just imploded. And so
were you at A3?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, so was I.
Oh, were you? Yeah.
So was I.
Yes.
I was there for the last maybe 12 years. And
Right. I was when it was Abrams. When it was Abrams, and it went.
I was there. I went there when it was Abrams.
Mhm.
I'll answer your question quickly. I went through. I won't name them, but I'd say I was
Of course.
probably at over the course of the 30 years, I was probably at four. I'm thinking, yeah, there's probably like four different places. And then I finally landed at one place, and I was there for about 10, 12 years. And it was a very well respected, good, solid boutique
Mhm.
agency. And the person that I had there representing me was not a great guy. He was not the person that I needed to be my point guy at that particular time in my career. I was in my late 30s, early 40s. I was at this place. I was working. I was getting good gigs. I was doing Public Enemies and Air Force One. And like I had some good gigs while I was there, but it kind of ebbed and flowed. And it was largely because this one particular person was going through so many personal problems in his life that I just lost a lot of ground. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I feel like I lost a lot of traction. So by the time I finally decided, and I'm a fiercely loyal guy, I've stayed with a manager way longer than I probably should have because I was too chicken shit to leave. And I was too chicken shit to leave this other place. And I thought, okay, I'll give him another chance. And I finally got to the point where I said, okay, you know what? I got to go. And I grew some balls and I left that agency. I went to Abrams, and I've been there for about 12 years. And the one guy that is there now saw the writing on the wall and saw the Titanic sinking, and he split and he went to a new agency, and I followed him, fortunately, and he took me with him. Yeah, I mean, it's happening to a couple. It's happening to a couple of different places. Did you land someplace?
I didn't. So two things happened. One was, and again, I've talked about this on the podcast without.
And by the way, sorry to interrupt, but if my guy at A3, who I consider a friend, and he's been a great champion of mine, and he really, once I got to Abrams, things really turned around. I mean, I turned 50, and all of a sudden I'd had this pretty good body of work behind me, but I got into another level when I got into my 50s. And I feel like, as I said before, I feel like my work is getting better and deeper and richer and all the things. And if I didn't have this one, I've never had a real true champion. I've never had one person that really just like a great cheerleader. And I found this guy, and if he hadn't taken me with him to this place that he went, or if the place that he went to said, yeah, we can only take a certain amount of your clients, and we don't want Spencer Garrett, that was a very real possibility, then I would have been, in the position of having to look for a new place. So I feel lucky that this guy has the faith in me, and we've been a good team, and we've done a lot of good work together. And so I joked to him the other day. I said, when I finally go to that great audition in the sky, my tombstone is going to read offer only. That's going to be on my headstone. It's going to say offer only. Or here lies that guy from that thing.
Hey, that's good though, right? My agent there became a manager, and I already had a manager. And so, my manager, we were in the middle of a strike, and we just decided to just hang on for a second. I made a choice 4 years ago, and we can't look in hindsight. I made a choice when, and maybe you can speak to this because you've been doing it before we land this plane, is just that when I was at I'm just going to say it. I don't mean it the way it's going to come out. When we were at the height of Bosch, and, I had recurred on grades, and I had some stuff going. I had a choice between two agencies. It was A3 and Paradigm, and I loved A3. Mm-hmm. And I went with them, which I'm not regretful of. I just, that was just a thing. And, when they imploded, I was like, maybe I should have went the other route. But you don't know that. You can't hindsight it. And so
you never know.
I guess the best thing, the question there is striking when you're hot, right? That's a thing. Yeah. It's because now you're like, I always feel like, for me, people want to get on a moving train. right? People want to get on a moving train, not a train that's docked or at a station for a bit. And so I guess, and all the stuff you've done, what would you say about that? Like, moving trains versus like, striking when the iron's hot and stuff.
I think you want to get on the moving train.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you never know. You never know when that train is going to pull into the station.
Yeah.
And the conductor is going to get off and go someplace else. I know the manager you're talking about. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And she went off and became a manager. In fact, two of my favorite agents from A3 have now since opened up their own shops. And the one, how to talk about this without naming names, but the person who was my point person when I first got to Abrams years ago, she left and she became a manager. And I felt a little adrift, and I thought, oh gosh, my one advocate there, I liked everybody else very much, but I didn't really deal with them that often. And my one advocate, she left and she became a manager. And I already had a manager like you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until this new guy came in and I went, okay, I'm going to be in good hands, because you never know. And listen, I mean, I am as proactive. Yeah. I'm fortunate that at this point, like a lot of my work is offers. I got offered something today, which is terrific. Last week, I put down 2 self tapes. It's an interesting combination of getting offers and repeat business from people that you know and have worked with before, and self tapes. But I'm in the position now of getting offered stuff, which is a nice position to be in. But I never stop hustling. I never stop working. So I'm always keeping my ear to the ground of what's out there. I read Deadline. I read the breakdowns. You always have to be proactive, and I've always been proactive ever since I started this and I started working. I realized that you can't rely on, even if you've got a great advocate at whatever agency you're working with or your manager. I also have terrific managers who I like very much, but I can't rely on them doing the work for me all the time. You'd like to think that's the case, but sometimes I'm a pain in the ass about it, and I'll say, "Hey, I just heard about blah blah blah. Can you find out about it?" You gotta make your own luck sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm always hustling, and I'm always working, and I'm not ashamed of it.
I love you here, man. I think I'm so happy that you came on the podcast.
Me too.
I have one parting question to.
I could talk to you for hours. Seriously, I told you I'm a talker, so
I love it. I
could go on and on and on.
We're going to see if you can get this. And there are actually 2 questions, and I'm going to just give them to you, and then you can land the plane for me on this. Have you ever thought about quitting in the industry? That's number 1. Like, has there been any moment that you're like, I've ever thought about quitting? And then the second question I'm really wondering is, looking back at the span of your career, what tip, what strategy, what information would you give people who are in the thick of it right now? And, they're like, I don't know if I can make it to 60.
The answer to your first question is, yeah, I did think about quitting. When I was late 20s, early 30s, I'd set the bar so high for myself that I really thought the train is not moving as quickly as I would like it to. I had really high expectations, and I know it's a slow process, but I saw people kind of starting to eclipse me. Peers of mine were, and I feel like I started late also, for starters. I didn't really start to get into the ball game until I was 25, 26. And a lot of people had already had a head start on me that were working. And I felt like it was unrealistic. I felt like I had to try to catch up, which was stupid. And so at one point, when I was about 28, 29, I had an opportunity to go back to Duke University, where I went to college, and work in the drama department and be an acting teacher there. And I saw, oh gosh, you can buy a house in Durham, North Carolina for $120,000 and have a really good life working in the academic world and teaching, So there was something about that was really appealing to me. So yes, so the answer to your question, yes, I did think about going and teaching for a while, and completely just bailing and thinking, at least that's going to be steady. At least that's going to be a steady paycheck, and I will still be working in the theater and feeding my soul that way. But I won't have to worry about whether I'm going to be able to pay my rent next month. I was still waiting tables and tending bar, and I mean, at one point, I remember selling my baseball card collection so I could pay my rent and things like that. And I thought, I don't want to. I'm almost 30 years old. I don't want to be doing this. And then I got an audition for the movie Air Force One, and next thing I knew, I'm on a movie with Harrison Ford for 6 months, and that turned into something else. And then I got a series, and so my dreams of becoming an academician and working in college theater for $49,000 a year, that quickly went away.
Yeah.
I love that. But and I haven't really thought about it since then. I mean, it's been a pretty good life. I've been very lucky. And then second part of your question, I would say keep studying, keep learning. One of the things that I treated myself during the pandemic was I've always either been part of a play reading group or attempted or tried to read at least 2 plays a week, which is something I've been doing for 30 years. I still do. I try to find new plays to read. I try to see as much theater as I possibly can. And then I got a subscription to the Criterion Collection, the Criterion Channel of movies. And I just went down a big, long ass rabbit hole of just feeding myself on really great cinema. And I must have watched during the pandemic, during the 2 years of lockdown, I probably watched about 300 films. Wow. Just never stop doing your homework, never stop learning, never stop finding great things to steal from other actors. You're always learning. You're always trying to be a sponge and trying to make yourself better and trying to become better at your craft.
Spencer Garrett, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you so much for fighting through the Wi-Fi.
Oh man,
I love. That. Oh no, I love it. I'm a different actor would have just like cut out, but I want to say you came back, and man, I was right about this. I think a lot of actors are going to love to hear your journey. I think it's inspiring. I think you're inspiring. Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
I love you, brother. Thanks, Dajuan.
35 years of being in this industry, and he feels like he's just getting the hang of it. 35 years. Wow, Spencer. Wow. That hit me. That hit me. I mean, the whole podcast was fantastic. It was really, really, really great. The significance of building relationships and all that stuff and playing live characters, all that stuff was great. But you feeling like you've been in this industry for 35 plus years and you are just feeling like you're getting it. I got a question for you. Are you a lifer in this industry? Or are you someone that is really going to go through all of the ups and downs and bookings and not bookings and stay in this industry? Because wow, 35 years is a long time to be in this industry and just feel like you're just getting it. I know we want it to happen fast. I did. And coming to the realization that was not going to happen for me as fast as I wanted it to happen, there was a little bit of grieving that needed to go along with that. You know, I carried around for a long time not feeling good enough in this industry, because if I was good enough, or at his minimum as good as I thought I was, why hasn't this happened for me yet? Especially when that happened for so many others. That's what I used to think all the time. You know, is that weird? Is that weird? Side note, that we compare ourselves to the small, teeny, tiny number of actors who have made it, but we don't compare ourselves to the hundreds of actors, and hundreds of thousands, let's say, of actors that don't make it. So think about that. We think about those teeny tiny number of actors who have made it, but we don't compare ourselves to the actors that have not made it. Because honestly, when I reframe it that way, I'm freaking like excited that I'm still here living this dream. But that was a total sign out. Dajuan, stick to the D12. Here's the D12 shot. And I've said this in this version of it in so many times. If you want to stay in this industry for a long time, know that it's okay to do it your own way. Listen to what Spencer is saying. You must put forth a lot of effort. Yes. But it's okay. It's A-okay if you do other things. We no longer live by the toxic statement, if you can do anything else, go do it because you're not a committed actor. Or that's not what we're saying here. That is not how this industry is anymore. That is a consciousness from actors past who only believed in struggle. I'm talking about these 35 years that the ups and downs that Spencer's talking about. You are a creative being. Go be creative. Maybe that is painting or writing a book like John Lindstrom talked about in previous podcasts. Maybe that is directing or writing. Maybe it's something totally different. Whatever it is, just do it. I want you to be here for 35 years if you want to be here. And we do get to understand that those 35 years are not going to be working all of the time. It's not going to be you as the same person. You're going to have to evolve into new things. It's not going to be like I only get to go in the room. You might have to do self-tapes or you might have to do, put your reel together. There might be other things that you're doing within those 35 years. It's not going to be work after work after work. It's not going to be show after show after show. It's not. Keep acting as your first main love, but live a full life. If I had listened to all the expired beliefs of actors around me, I wouldn't have bought a house. I wouldn't have started a family. I wouldn't still be here. All because of group actor think. Be different. Live fully. Do you. All right. Because I can't wait to see you at the 30-year mark. I can't. I can't wait to see you on set. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening and sharing this podcast. I love it. I love doing this podcast. I love that we're going to be doing a live podcast for the Think Bigger Actors Retreat. I love that I get to do that with you all as well. We're looking forward to meeting you here in Los Angeles in August. I just want to say, I'm going to end this how I always end it. And just remember, don't quit. Don't get out of line. Borrow my faith in you because I am rooting so hard for you. So hard. And no matter what, hold the vision, not the circumstance you're in right now. This is your career, your life, your dreams. Your vision is bigger than just this moment. I love you so big.